originally was meant to be Web3, right?
Yeah.
The idea is to be interconnected. And I say, you know, the blockchain, people, they call it trustless. And I really don't like that name. I actually think it's the wrong name. I think it should be called trust everywhere, because it's not that trust is not less, it's actually more trust, because trust is now embedded in the crypto, right? In the so actually things are more trustworthy. That's why you don't need the central database or whatever, right? So if you think about the DAO and some of those new ways of kind of constituting a business and a piece of software, that's where Web3, not as a, right, not crypto as an asset or whatever, trading.
Right.
I know you guys talk about that a lot, but I think as a component of how to mix and match these softwares, right? Code, that's the true Web3 that we're.
Welcome to AFO Wealth Management Forward, a podcast about finance, accounting, technology, and entrepreneurship. We apply our decades worth of experience and insight into what makes businesses work, so we can help others grow both personally and professionally. In this ever-evolving marketplace, we help accounting firms and financial advisors grow their practice through the adoption of holistic wealth management services. Learn from industry leaders and subject matter experts to unlock the secrets of their success. A podcast that shows people and companies the transformative power of technology so they don't fear it, but instead harness it. Don't fight the robots, team up with them. And here are your hosts, Rory Henry, Director of Business Development, and CEO Rob Santos of Arrowroot Family Office.
All right. Hello, everyone. Today, I'm joined by Mark McCarron, partner at Arrowroot Family Office. Mark, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Rory. Thanks for having me on, man.
Thank you for coming back on. We have a guest that we spoke with at the accounting web conference, and I said, we have to get him on the podcast. He is just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to tax, accounting, and technology. So I'm super excited to have him on with us today. He has a background at Xero. He was a former CPA, and now he's the founder of Tallyfor, which helps reduce the time it takes to create a tax return from hours to minutes. They're a sponsor of our show, so you'll hear their ad later in the show. I want to give a warm welcome to our guest today, Peter Wynn. Peter, welcome to the show.
Hey, Rory, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. And Mark, I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, good to see you again.
Great. So we always start out, Peter, and I always get the origin story of our guest. Can you kind of give our audience a background and what led you to start Tallyfor?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I always love telling my history and how I got here. I am a former CPA, as you highlighted, and I was in corporate doing tax audit for a good 10 years. And then I left to join Xero in 2000, I think it was 2012. So almost 10 years ago. I was on the early team in the US when Xero kind of came to the US market. For your listeners who aren't aware, Xero is a New Zealand company, and they entered, and they kind of shook up the cloud accounting. Back then, it wasn't even cloud accounting. They kind of changed the paradigm of how accounting is done on the cloud. So I was very fortunate to join that team early on. I was the first CPA hire there. And it was just fun building the product, help build the product. I got to do a lot of different things at a startup. So I kind of hung up my CPA credentials, and everything's product. I saw what product could do for the profession, just changing the way people do their work, how they interact with clients, how they bill. They actually make a better lifestyle with some of the products. So I moved from Xero to start my own thing, Tallyfor, because I saw that the tax world didn't really have that much love in the product world. So that's kind of my quick background.
Yeah, and I got a question here because I know there's different terminology. Can you kind of differentiate the difference between fintech, accounting tech, and now tax tech?
Yeah. Fintech is a sexy one, right?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to do fintech payments, right? That's where a lot of the VC money over the years has kind of traveled. Accounting tech or account tech, is in some ways a new category that, right, online accounting, Xero and QuickBooks and Intuit has kind of filled out, over a decade ago. Some more players coming in the last 5-6 years around automation. But you never hear the word tax tech because no one wants to do taxes. So in some ways, Tallyfor is coining that word and saying, we're going to build the best technology for tax. And that's a cousin to accounting tech and fintech.
Yeah. And, that goes into automation, and to a little shift topics a little bit here, Peter. I just saw yesterday, Google and DeepMind said they're close to achieving human level artificial intelligence. I don't know if you saw that article. It still needs to be scaled up. He says that the headline was "The game is over." What do you make of this DeepMind and this breakthrough in artificial intelligence? Or is it just clickbait?
I'm not familiar with that specific article, but it's going to happen, right? Artificial intelligence will, I was actually thinking the other night, like, how come no one's done this, right? They've just make a robot, just a robot making the robots.
Yeah.
Like not expect, and just actually replicate yourself, right? A physical robot, just as a joke or a meme, right? And show that, hey, look, now one is like 50 and, life has, it doesn't have to be smart, just physically make one. So, it's going to happen, right? It's inevitable. So whether we get there tomorrow or 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what that means for humanity is kind of scary.
Yeah. In regards to what it means for humanity, I guess let's scale that back down. What this means for the CPA profession. Can you talk about, what automation is doing and the future of technology and what those small, medium-sized firms out there need to be looking after in regards to evolution?
Yeah, I mean, I actually think we're quite early on the automation journey, and with a lot of promises that have been made in the last 10 years still have not come to fruition. Even if you look at the tax tech world, right? Some of the products that we will be replacing, Tallyfor will be building, right, are 30-year-old products. They're literally desktop products. They're really holding back. They're holding back the tax people, the tax professions, why they watch the book side or the financial side having these cool cloud tools. The tax side is like, what do you have for me? Why am I on a product that's literally a desktop product in a hosted environment? Now, all of that needs to go away, because that's not true collaboration. These are really the basic steps of automation. And I'm talking about, and I know your tagline is, right?
Don't fight the robots, team up with them.
Right. I love that, because you shouldn't be afraid of automation. You should be friends with it. I say something similar like, hey, let the bots do the dirty work and you can be more human. Meaning you go home to your family, you can go to the beach or, go hiking with that time saved. And we're early enough in the world of automation that you can craft that and kind of guide, you meaning the tax professional can guide that and use that to your benefit for this generation. So maybe the next generation, there's less flexibility as these, as things truly become automated, your brain becomes less valuable. I don't want to say that. I say that jokingly, but, it really frees you to do more things that you enjoy instead of crunching numbers.
Yeah. I mean, these legacy platforms, they have a stranglehold on the marketplace. And that's probably why there has been a lack of innovation in the space. Am I correct, Peter?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the history of computing, right, business and computing have always gone hand in hand. All the innovations in business have driven computing, and computing has driven business. So, there are all like these mini cycles or pockets of like innovation that hold out, and, value is extracted from those products. And then they grow into a long, decline. And then someone has to kind of take the leap and say, this is going to be the next product. And, in our world, we can borrow from other places that technology has already kind of shown the benefits, whether it's fintech, that's the closest. But any technology on the web now, product-led technology, has just changed the world in anywhere you name it, right? E-commerce, anything. The tax world is literally a generation behind. So we think we bring up the tax world to parity. We actually think we can leapfrog, meaning we can go one cycle or half a cycle forward by innovating properly.
All right, let's talk. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, I think that this would be a good time, actually, to kind of give the pitch for Tallyfor and say, go through like a motion of specifically what a CPA would do for, say, an individual tax return or a business tax return or both, like how it looks, like how are things currently done in a nutshell, and then like what specific problem does Tallyfor fix and how?
Yeah, happy to walk you through a quick use case, right? And we'll just talk about a business return. So we do focus on business returns, and it's for a tax professional or a CPA filing right on behalf of a client. And you're all very well aware of book to tax, right? In the US, there's a book way of doing things and the tax way of doing things. Two rules. It's a little annoying to maintain these two truths, right? They're both equally true. They're both data, same data. And the tax people have to kind of pivot their, M1 adjustments. They have to tell a different truth to the IRS by their rules. So what Tallyfor does, we're a ledger in the cloud. That's our very core. And we can talk about the components of what we're building, but our core component is a lightweight ledger that can sit anywhere on the cloud. So it kind of sits on top of the data. And we don't really care about the transactional data at the moment, but it's a trial balance, right? There's nothing, accounting has figured this out before, but it's in the cloud, and there's benefits to that. And there's some smarts on the collaboration and the automation. So we hook up to any of the accounting packages, Xero, QuickBooks Online, Desktop, Intact, and we take that data in. We allow the bot or the professional to make journal entries. We memorize many of them. We automate them with templating, and then we actually move them over to those legacy products. So we take the data, and we can produce a return in literally 5 minutes from book to tax.
So it's specifically, is that basically taking, so you guys are kind of like a bridge between like a QuickBooks or a Xero, book, like an accounting ledger, and translating that directly into like a Schedule C or?
Oh yeah. We do a Schedule C or any form. We do the basic corporate forms, the 1120, 1120S, 1065. Those are the bread and butter. As more people want different forms, we can expose more of that, but we're doing the basics right now. But that saves, right? It saves, we've been hearing it saves, between 2 to 3 hours per return from manually doing it with Excel or getting reports from your client, whatever. So now everything's data and literally flows from one place to the other. And the tax professionals, they're more monitoring the data and using their expertise maybe for small, checking the data and then moving it along. And that's where people can start running really efficient tax practices.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, because I do know that 1120s are usually a lot like more expensive than 1040s, and more time consuming than a 1040. So anything you could do to kind of swap those situations would alleviate a lot of pressure on the tax professional, and would enable them, potentially make a lot more money doing some of these things that are considered to be like harder work, but letting the bot do some of the work.
Yeah, I mean, there's many components to why this is a nice place. I'm pausing because I'm thinking about like where an innovator picks to innovate first, and we very specifically pick the ledger, right? The trial balance as an entry point. I call it the drawbridge into the castle. That's where all data flows, and it's the right amount of data. You don't want too much or too little. The business returns are good because yes, they're a little bit more, you can charge more for them. But in the past, you had to kind of do a little bit more work. But now you can actually just make it a data flow, and maybe you still maintain some of that margin. And then now you just have a better book of business.
That makes sense. And speaking of a drawbridge into a castle, now let's talk about tax planning into wealth management, because I always say that, that is that bridge, that tax plan is that bridge into that wealth management conversation. Can you talk about what you're doing at Tallyfor in the tax planning feature?
Yeah. So our ledger product is our core kind of data manipulator, let's call it, right? Tax planning, but underneath we actually have the full return. So in order for us to map the return, we actually have to have the return. And the beauty about the IRS from a product standpoint is that there is a canonical specification, right? A specification is what is the language that is being spoken, and that's the IRS. So it's actually a beautiful way, because you don't have to think about that. The business product, the problem has already been defined by the government. So we do have a tax planning product coming out later this year, where we will kind of expose some of that cloud benefits on the planning side. And that's really interesting as a precursor to what you do with a tax return, that knowledge. So that'll be a very interesting product. And we've got some really great visualizations and some nice stuff that you've never seen before.
All right. Yeah. And that leads me into maybe let's talking about the staffing shortage that is plaguing the profession. And I always say, and I've talked to many thought leaders as well, is it was a branding problem. And it's creating that meaningful work and using those robots, doing what you guys are doing to work on that compliance stuff, that menial work that's not attractive and fun. So you could do the more exciting stuff was tax planning, wealth management, people advisory. Can you kind of talk about the staffing shortage and why it's hard to hire a tax pro?
Well, these are problems that have been brewing for many years within the profession, right? I mean, there's certain things you have to learn, and education you have to go through. It's definitely costly, both in time and dedication and financial cost to get credentialed. And then, right, you've probably heard this from other people on your podcast, and then you're ending up keying data in for, and you're charging your client 200, I think the big four is $200 an hour or even more, right? And you're literally sometimes keying stuff in Excel still. Now, so there's a mismatch between what you expected to do and maybe what you're doing. And, you can read all the stats on the CPA pass rates and, how many younger folk are choosing this as a profession. Obviously, the pandemic was a wake-up call for everyone. For us at Tallyfor, it was a great opportunity because it really shows you don't need to be in the office. It can be a web service, and it frees you up. So, and the cost benefit is just, the numbers by running a bot that will take away some of that rote stuff versus a human. And I'm not talking about the human. I'm talking, don't get carpal tunnel typing numbers, right?
Yeah.
That all should be done by the computer. And then you can use your brain for the planning, the tax law. That's where really the conversation should be going. And, that's been done in the accounting world. Again, Xero, QuickBooks Online, they moved to advisory, 10 years ago. I think the tax world needs to kind of follow that path, or they will follow that path, given the right tools.
Yeah, two things come to mind there. One, the idea of everyone doing things in Excel and then getting carpal tunnel typing in numbers is, to me, the first thing I think is, oh my God, how many errors are made doing that? Like just tons and tons, right? So not even time notwithstanding, just accuracy, using optical character reading and stuff like that that can map stuff over is genius from one perspective. And then number two, the thing I think about is pretty much every accountant that I met when I met you at the conference in San Diego was that every accountant is attempting at least to go the same direction. Every accountant wants to get into tax planning.
Oh yeah.
A lot of just straight 1040 kind of clients don't necessarily need, but what I'm finding is that it does make it a lot easier, even if you don't have the most complex of tax returns. Just setting expectations, getting things in a place where an extension might not matter. Like especially this year was the worst that I'd seen so far with people scrambling and people saying I've never been extended and I don't want to be extended. Well, it's not a big deal to be extended if you're prepared and you're not in O status, right? Like
Right.
if you're expecting a refund, it doesn't matter whether you file on February 10th or October 15th of that year, you know?
Yeah.
So that education and that planning could be really important in kind of spreading out this tax season, so that maybe some of these younger CPAs and the, you know, the conversation around like the labor force and the accounting profession, you know, it wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't just this hellish 3.5 months. You know, if we could spread this out a little bit,
Yeah.
you know, it might be a little bit more attractive.
Well, yeah, there's a lot you said there that I could touch on. I mean, yeah, definitely the deadline driven kind of lumpiness and the stress that goes around those deadlines is definitely, it throws a wrench into the bookkeeping and tax. That's why bookkeepers, right, the accounting side or the book side, right, they don't match with the tax people because it's a different flow. So it's actually hard to run a business doing both, because staffing is hard. You have different personalities, right? If you want to go down thinking about who your staffing is and the culture, you're, you know, half the team's working, you know, hard here and they're disjointed. So I think because of that nature of two types of work, they are very separate. And that's why tax tech has not been given the right tools. Now, I have comments on Excel, right? I think Excel is a great tool. And, you know, everyone wants to be an Excel jockey, but everyone's doing the same thing individually, and it's not replicable. It's not shareable. It's not robust. It's not thought about as a product. So as much as I love Excel, our job at Tallyfor is to give everyone the right tools to do the right targeted thing a tax professional needs to do. Yeah, there's a lot more there that I could talk about.
Yeah, like a particular client comes to mind. Like, you shouldn't be making a new Excel sheet every time you have, like, say, a client that has 3 different mortgages during the year, you know, and they're all subject to the same, that $750,000 limit, right? So if they have 3 different mortgages and there are 3 different rates, obviously there's some spreadsheeting to do, right? But not every CPA should be recreating that spreadsheet time and time and time again. Like, each one of these kinds of business problems is pretty ubiquitous, right? Like, every CPA has at least one client who's going to have that issue. So why not have a tool that solves those kinds of problems?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the job of, you know, me, Tallyfor, the innovators that, you know, do have access to really great engineers, know how to build a web product. You know, that's our job, to make the right products that could be used by everyone, and to identify those, rather than, everyone trying to do it themselves in kind of like their own little silo, you know. And right, I love doing Excel. Like, I love having one. And, you know, sometimes you feel like you have a sense of control. I made it, but for the firm, it's actually a negative, right? Because it's locked in my head. It's a little bit of an extension. If it's Google Sheets or something, maybe I could share it, but it still doesn't have the real robustness of what is really needed to really automate all of tax.
Yeah, one person's security blanket is the firm's albatross, right?
Well, right. And that's, you know, the leader of the firm, right? Or it has to kind of recognize that and shepherd the right choices.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking about shepherding those right choices, you know, what is in store here for tax tech as moving forward in the next couple of years? You know, what does this mean for tax practitioners when it comes to the tax technology?
Yeah. I mean, you dream it and we'll build it. I mean, you know, in the end, it's all data, right?
Yeah.
And we're actually very fortunate that most transactions start as a digital, even if you pay with cash, right? You pay cash at the coffee shop, it's going to become a digital number on that point of sale. So it's not rocket science in the sense we're not doing heavy graphics, 3D rendering, right? So it's more of the human rules of the tax world that has to be layered on top of that. So that's why we think we can leapfrog the tax world into a better world for the professionals, meaning it is about planning. It is about understanding your client's needs. That's some of the bit of human social stuff that will not be automated, I don't think, in my generation. You know, maybe the next generation, you know, you'll have a true bots, you know, telling you what to do emotionally with your money, you know. So, but that's where, I think I said automation's a continuum. We're at the beginning of automation. So let's use it for what it is today. Let's accept it. Yeah, maybe in the future, I don't have a job, but maybe I don't need a job because, all the food, right? That's not good.
Well, they have that. I mean, it's here in LA, they have those little boxes that carry food around, and it's just a robot just going down the street, stopping at stop signs like this. We're in this world now of robots delivering food.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mark.
I was gonna say we actually have a full service restaurant here in Charlottesville that has a little robot that has 2 different shelves on it. And like you order your food on an app, and then the robot comes over to your table.
Oh, really?
And brings you your food, and then you pay at the robot. So it's not a fast casual restaurant. It is a quote unquote full service restaurant, but your waiter or your waitress is a robot, which I'm not sure how I feel about it just yet. Like,
well, right. If you look at the internet, even just 30 years ago, there was nothing, right? 1990, whatever. And, I think innovation is at a good clip, but I think it actually can go faster.
Mm-hmm. So I had Bob Lewis just recently on the podcast with Will Hill, and he talks about he's advising many of these, $10, $50 million firms that, haven't really caught up in regards to advisory or implementing the latest tools. What is your advice to those firms, even the medium-sized firms, as far as implementing technology?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, first of all, be open to it. You have to learn what's out there. That's one thing. In terms of change management, what we found, right, the larger firm is actually slower to adopt technology because of the inertia, the systems in place, the risk, the different stakeholders, everything. But when they do make the right move, it moves massively, right? So it's a little bit of a more measured evaluation, implementation, change management. Little guys, it's one owner, 2 partners, 3 partners. They see the benefit, they see their colleagues benefiting right away, and they can pick it up. So there's a continuum onto, how you implement that with your team. How old is your team? Do you have an innovation person? So, there's ways we like to educate about how to choose that and how to find it. Obviously we're pretty new in the market, so people are just learning about us. So it's our job to make it easy to learn about it and make the product actually quite easy to even use and understand. We call that product-led growth in the SaaS world, software as a service, is that if you can just use the product and you see the benefit right away, and maybe on the sly, right? And one of our customers like this, one of the, it wasn't the tax director, it was a tax, it was someone doing the returns. They just started using Tallyfor, and maybe he went home early or something, right? And it's like, and he has a secret in his pocket, and countless tech adoptions have been done that way. Just found it's so clearly valuable. Then it gets exposed to the wider firm, and then they just say, okay, yeah, let's do it. So there's different paths on how to pick up and find and adopt technology.
Makes sense. Well, let's talk about, we talked about SaaS. There's Web 1.0, there's Web 2.0.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about Web 3.0. What is Web 3.0, Peter? What can we look forward to in regards to the metaverse and all that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know much about the metaverse. I know that this is real, even though we're on Zoom. At Tallyfor, we have this long view of technology. My co-founder is my brother. He actually went to MIT and got a computer science degree. So he's been thinking about, and he's been in technology, for this whole kind of 3 decades. And the way we view it is, if you look at a chart, right, left to right, maybe in the 90s you have the internet, which is, kind of a crazy idea. I don't know if you all remember the first hyperlinks. And what's that blue thing? And but that kind of just right, the just thinking, oh, now the world is connected. Then I think the next big kind of big innovation, if you want to call it, right, was the API, right? The app, where data could be traded between these products. That really opened up, collaboration, in the browser. Today where I think we are is more of a usability stage. And what I mean by that is now the technologies are targeted, and right, a lot of the unicorns out there today are a targeted technology on the web. Look at Deal, for example. I don't know if you guys know Deal, right? 1099, right? Contractor management platform, or whatever you want to call it, right? Really specific for that use case. But now the technology, you can actually make these things a little bit faster, right? And that's my premise. Is one of Tallyfor's premise is that accounting moved from ERP to the cloud. Xero, QuickBooks Online, right? QuickBooks Online is a great franchise, great product. But why is it one big piece? Why is it a monolith? Why do you need all these components in an accounting package? It's really a bunch of small functions that you need to apply on top of data. So that's what we're talking about, usability. Now you can craft a specific automated use case for whatever you name. And that goes hand in hand with kind of the low code, no code kind of, I don't want to call it a revolution, but that evolution of how code is being written. And that's accelerating how innovation is being done. So we think at Tallyfor, we want to be there at that next point where they are really components, math components, whatever, tax components sitting on top of the data. And that's how you can transform all the data flowing in the world. I don't know if that was Web3 or not.
That was a good explanation nonetheless there, Peter.
I mean, no, to answer, right, to really answer the question about Web3, right, the original, the web originally was meant to be Web3, right?
Yeah.
The idea is to be interconnected. And I say, the blockchain, people, they call it trustless. And I really don't like that name. I actually think it's the wrong name. I think it should be called trust everywhere, because it's not that trust is not less, it's actually more trust, because trust is now embedded in the crypto, right? In the so actually things are more trustworthy. That's why you don't need the central database or whatever, right? So if you think about the DAO and some of those new ways of kind of constituting a business and a piece of software, that's where Web3, not as that, right? Not crypto as an asset or whatever, trading. Right. I know you guys talk about that a lot, but I think as a component of how to mix and match these softwares, right? Code, that's the true Web3 that we're aiming at.
I agree. Mark?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? There's a lot of modularization that you can do now. So I'm kind of forming a concept of what I could see Tallyfor being as like an instituted product. And it would be the ability to say, like, here's my tax practice. And you can basically take your entire software package and modularize it for a client. Yep. And as their practice changes, you can check a box and add a functionality, check a box, add a functionality. It doesn't need to be, to your point, this monolith, like this huge, gigantic thing that you're like, I don't need to know. Maybe I don't do partnership returns. Maybe I don't need, 1120s, but I need all the 1040 stuff, and I need all the calculators that you've built, to do like conversion math on, Roth conversions. Yeah, I need the math on mortgage stuff. Like, you can turn on what you need to turn on and leave everything else off. So it's kind of interesting. Like, I mean, we definitely have this problem in fintech that I can commiserate with you with is every piece of software that we use is trying to be everything to everybody. And like, I don't need 13 client portals, and my clients are not going to log in 13 different softwares that I offer them to see different views of exactly what's going on. I need one.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't need. Some of these things are just tools for me. They don't need to be client portals. They don't need to be a thing that exists for, zero clients to actually use or log into.
Right. No, do you guys know what Mr. Beast Burger is? I'm sure you all right. Mr. Beast Burger.
I actually don't.
Yeah, where you can make your own burger, right? And it's like you add the lettuce, you add the tomato, and so yeah, we think tax can be done like that.
Yeah.
You want depreciation, throw that on.
That's the ketchup
Side of no, I think depreciation is actually kind of meaty. So
meaty. All right, well, that's the double. I want double depreciation.
Exactly.
All right, well, I'm hungry. Peter, thank you so much for coming on the show. And I know our audience will gain a great insight into this. If people want to get in touch with you or find out more about Tallyfor, what's the best way to do so?
Tallyfor.com. That's our website. If you want to email me at I don't know if I should put my email on the internet, but Peter at tallyfor.com. So just email me, and I'd love to give you a demo of our tax planning, anything. We can show you the fun stuff.
All right. I love it. Peter, thank you so much for coming on the show. We hope to have you on again here in the future.
Awesome.
Thanks, Peter.
Guys.
All opinions expressed by Rob Santos and Rory Henry on this website podcast interview are solely their opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Arrowroot Family Office LLC or their parent company or affiliates, and may have been previously disseminated on television, radio, internet, or another medium. You should not treat any opinion expressed by anyone as a specific inducement to make a particular investment or follow a particular strategy, but only as an expression of their opinions. Past performance is not indicative of future results.